Hello, this is Julie from Love's Beginning, and today I'm going to talk about making a commitment to love. What I mean when I say that is there is one whole thing that we are, that everybody else is, that is represented in every situation we encounter, every object that we encounter, everything. It's present everywhere. And when we learn to refer to that, to direct everything, to give us our inspiration, to when we find ourselves in a state of tension or confusion or just being annoyed or irritated, to refer back to that for everything that is the source of everything, that is who we are, that is what we are, that is what solves all apparent problems, that's what resolves everything. It's just the one thing. It's very simple. And there comes a point when you begin to see this, and then you invite it to increase in your perception. And then when you also begin to say, okay, this is the whole thing, this is the only thing, and you get less and less lost in the thought stream that would tell you otherwise. If you listen to, watch, observe the thought stream, what goes through your head during the day, all the crazy things it can tell you, and all the conflicting things, all the judgmental things it can tell you, and realize, oh, that is just, it's almost like it's a pre-recorded message that I've been listening to and referring to and believing in. And when I listen to, refer to, believe in that pre-recorded message, what comes out in the world around me is conflict, disorder, disharmony, fear, because there is this lack of stability. And that's where fear comes from. You don't know who and what you are. You don't know what your basis is. And you grasp at things in the world to try to help you feel okay. That is why people want money or want to look good or want to succeed. And it's not that phenomenally in the world of phenomena, one thing happening after another, or people and objects being encountered. It is not as if something that can be labeled success does not happen in a life story. All things can happen in a life story. But when you realize that beyond the highs and lows, there is something that is far more stable and reliable and just easier, much easier. And that, as a matter of fact, it is you. So it would be pretty silly to ignore it because it is you. We can forget many, many, many times a day. Every time we get confused or lost in our thoughts, conflicted, uncomfortable, we can forget many, many times a day that we are love, and that's all there is. And our world can be very distracting because it shows us a lot of evidence of things that would appear to not be love. But the reason we are here is to kind of see through it with super x-ray vision, and to simply be in the awareness of that, to see through it and to see there is love here. There is love here too. In some of my previous videos, when I've talked about the bad guys or how everything is for us, it addresses that, how, and the way I'm experiencing it now is whenever I'm in any situation at all, from the most ordinary to the most extraordinary, and there's any tension arising, it's the opportunity to put the glasses on and to see through that tension. We are accustomed to feeling tension in a situation and finding a cause outside of ourselves. Now it's like the buck stops here. We own it. I am feeling this tension because I am lying to myself in some way. I am not seeing things as they are. So the opportunity, it almost becomes exciting because it gets easier and easier. The opportunity is to feel the tension, to know it is yours, even though it looks like it's happening because of some outside situation. You brought that experience to yourself. You brought that experience to yourself to help you kind of uproot the feeling, the misperceptions you have about the world. And when you allow yourself to experience each moment of tension as a misperception, and you're willing to have your misperceptions cleared up, then every moment of tension you experience, if you understand that in blaming the outside world for it, you're missing an opportunity to sink deeper into peace, to become more aware of the love that you are, to become more aware of the love that everybody else is, to become more aware of the fact that every situation you're in is saturated with love and it awaits your discovery. So this is not as sexy as like, here's how I manifested $1 million. You can do that if you intentionally, if you want to prove to yourself that thoughts and beliefs result in the world you see and experience. You can play with that energy and insist that you're going to make something specific. You can make that happen. But does it feel peaceful? Does it feel good? This is the question to ask. And you will find at the root of those desires an anxiety, a lack of stability, a wanting those things because you think once you have them, then it will be okay. However, that puts desire in too much of a negative light. What I said is pointing something out. It's asking us to be aware of our feelings. And when we're feeling any kind of tension, disturbance, drive even, like a drive, there's an anxiety behind a drive, there's a fear behind it, it doesn't feel good. And the reason we want the money or the body or the life situation that seems better than ours is right now is that we just want some peace. It's all desires are one desire. So without putting desire in the doghouse, desire is a good thing because inspiration comes to us and guides us on to the next thing we're going to do. And we really want to do that thing, and it's attractive and it feels good. So the energy of desire in that way really works. If the energy of desire is leading you toward, I must and I will manifest a waist that is this big or this amount of money, it may just be a phase in development. And I can't set myself apart from you and say, well, because I have never specifically manifested really big things, that means I know more, or no, that doesn't make any sense. I may find myself tomorrow inspired to go in the direction of, I won't know the amount of money. It's not like you decide ahead of time, I'm going to manifest thus and such. Although sometimes it is very clear. You get a suggestion and it looks like it's ahead of you in the future and you move toward it and everything feels good about it. The most important thing is the feeling the whole time that you're moving toward it. The most important thing is the feeling. So if you keep your focus on the feeling and not on the disturbance of I don't have it now and I must have it and I must focus my energy and attention on getting it, then you can flow with the energy of inspiration rather than getting caught up in the anxiety of drive. I think that's the distinction I wanted to make there. There's the anxiety of drive and there's the flow of inspiration. And one feels much better than the other. And shouldn't you feel good? You deserve to feel good. So if I make, because I speak as a student, somebody who's learning and sharing. And in the sharing, it deepens my awareness and it's helpful for me. So that's the most important part. Um, so when we make feeling primary, we understand very simply what to do next. And that might include a long-term goal. That does not mean that we have no long-term goals, but it does mean that there is a lot of openness, and a lot of willingness to listen. And what are we listening for? We're listening for our true voice. If you think of the disturbed voice of ego as I want this, I want that, I want the other, it's not fun. That's why we don't like the reflection of ourselves in children that we think are demanding. They're actually holding up a divine mirror to us, to give us the opportunity to settle down, especially if we're judging them or their parents or whoever. It's always a divine mirror for us to settle down and to let go of that disturbed energy. Anytime we're judging somebody, that's always the case. They're always giving us the gift and the opportunity to set down the disturbance. And we are always choosing the disturbance because we choose how to perceive things. And when you get to a point when you realize my habit of perceiving disturbance everywhere and trying to not see it in here is in itself very disturbing, then you just become willing to listen. And what you're listening for is yourself. It's your true self. It's everybody's true self. But it comes through each one of us in differentiation. So we don't have to worry about it not being interesting. When we're listening for the one voice, it's just inspiration. It just feels good and it's simple and it tells us what to do next. And it's not that this voice is unfamiliar to anybody at all, because we couldn't be alive without following this voice in some way. But each one of us has a piece of the puzzle. Each one of us listens to this voice and enacts it in our lives in uniquely differentiated, individuated way. That's why we're all here to learn from one another. So, if you look at the enlightened master and you think, this one knows, and you look at the student in the audience and you think, that one doesn't, that's true on the level of phenomenality, on the level of the life story. However, love is everybody. And so what love invites us to do is see that in everybody. So an alternative to thinking about enlightenment is not to pursue a goal to become like that guy, the guy who's talking to everybody, and seems to really know what's going on. It is to take the gift that everybody has for you and to not be hesitant about that taking, to know you deserve it, to know that gift is in everybody, and to know you have that same gift to give. And it is the unique way in which love and inspiration flows very easily through you. I don't care how miserable you believe your life circumstance is, or how lacking you believe you feel you are in opportunity or in talent. The body is alive. The body that you're using to communicate through is alive, still here. And that means you have something to share and something to receive. Something to share with everybody, something to receive from everybody. There has been some talk of suicide lately because of famous people setting down form, and the way in which they did it was reported to be suicide. When I'm saying it in this funny way, it is because what I'm told, and I always get a little hesitant to talk about timelines because it seems so strange to me, but you don't know what timeline you're going to be in tomorrow. And in one timeline, they may be talking about a particular person setting down form and releasing into expansion, releasing into non-physical as a suicide or as a murder. So, or as an accident, all the different ways an apparent death can seem to happen. So I'm not here to insist on any particular definition of who set what body down in what way. But there is more talk and experience of suicides lately. And why was I thinking of that? Okay, the idea that everybody is here and to share something, and that you're here to receive something beautiful from everybody you meet. So, okay, that's the reason not to do it. If you know who you are and you understand this deeply. However, each one of us is a role player, and each one of us is playing a beautiful and perfect role for every other one of us. So if you are in a timeline where somebody did commit suicide, or it is reported that way, believably, or if you are in a timeline where someone was murdered and that person has some significance to you, somebody you know, or is a famous person, here's where talk of God's will comes in, which I've never liked. When I heard about it when I was younger, it just sounded absolutely terrible. So I don't even like using those words. Better to say your will when we think of the one shared self in love. And everything that happens serves us. And to go to a level where this is understandable and not distressing, we have to go to the level of a role-playing game. We are all here to wake each other up, and we are all playing a perfect role, showing up exactly as we do. Whatever flaw you think I have, or advantage you think I might have, or anything, it's supposed to be there for you. Whatever you experience from anybody else, it's for you, and this includes everything. So if somebody in your timeline has winked out, has dropped form, it's for you. Because here's why. Everything that comes up in reaction, we're here to release reaction and to toggle over into response. When we understand what's really happening here, it's much easier to respond to events rather than to react to events. When we react to events, we're scared, we're frightened, we don't know who we are, we don't know what this is, we don't know what's happening here, we don't know the greater purpose. And we tend to blame or talk about how unfortunate or how tragic. And it's okay if you're feeling deeply on that level, and you need to feel deeply whenever you do feel. It's a gift to yourself to allow yourself to feel. But at the same time, everybody here is playing a role, and that includes the ones who in your timeline, your current timeline, which can change so quickly, the ones who release into expansion are your invitation to release into expansion. Yes, they did it through a story that involved a setting down of the form. You can release into expansion while you're still embodied in this form. And if somebody appears to have released into expansion, this is going to sound terrible, but these are the words being suggested to me. With the help of another divine sibling called murderer. I know, it sounds terrible. But in the role-playing game, if you think of each person playing the role-playing game as a beautiful and innocent being of light, but they've taken on these roles, in some cases, to help, in all cases, to help everybody wake up. They might say, I'll be the bad guy this time around. Or, I have a contract with you that if you and I aren't fully awakened by thus and such a date, we're going to enact something together that is really going to disturb the people around us. And in that disturbance, it's going to kick up everything false in them, all the lies they've been believing. And that is why it's so disturbing. So whoa, I'm getting chills just talking about this. Whoa, okay. Confronting this and being honest with ourselves about what we're doing here. When we confront a very disturbing event and we want to go into the pain those people must have felt in that event, and we want to go into who's wrong and who's to blame, why are people committing suicide or being killed, we are stirring up our reactiveness. We're in a nest of all the lies we've told ourselves about the illusion we've made here. And it feels like a prison, and that's why we feel so agitated. And we want to do something, so we want to try to enact a solution, or we want to find someone to throw blame on. That's why it feels so disturbing, because we're feeling the disturbance of the very many lies we still believe, and we're kind of caught and enmeshed in. And that is the gift of people who enact a very disturbing tableau for us. They bring all that muck up inside us, and we have to deal with it. If we want to stay caught in this world of illusion and conflict, where war is a practice and murder is a practice and suicide is a practice. I say practice because it's something in one lifetime or another that you have done, okay? It's terribly maniacal of me to smile at this. Why would I? Because there is so much innocence and forgiveness. What you are is and always has been innocent. And if you can allow yourself to touch in memory and through experience and through meeting people, all the lifetimes in which you've enacted everything there is to enact, you can forgive yourself. You can forgive everybody. And when this forgiveness happens, we go deeper and we become more inspired instead of conflicted. And we are not likely to make war with each other. We are not likely to kill each other because we're not caught up in our nest of lies. So people who are still in this lifetime, in this life story, caught up in a nest of lies and a nest of conflict that keeps their story turbulent, they are only in love reflecting your turbulence back to you so you can clear it up. And there's only one way to clear it up. There's just only one solution, and it's remembering who you are and remembering that there's only one of us. And when we allow that turbulence to clear up, our thoughts and our beliefs change radically. They align with the one of us there is, with love in every moment. And we're terrified of this. We're terrified because we went into a state of separation that we chose, and we needed to use fear to make this state of separation like really touchably physical and believable. You need fear to keep our physical experience limited and frightening the way it is. In order to have the believable physical experience of a car smashing into a human body, sorry about that, I'm trying to give you something really visceral. In order to have that, you have to have fear. That is the energy of separation. That is the energy that keeps the body believably separate from the vehicle, and the vehicle capable of destroying a separate object. The phenomenality of the physical that we all hold in place here through our thoughts and beliefs depends on fear. And if we understand that we depend on fear every single day, and we teach it to our children, I still do. When we're walking in the street, we don't have sidewalks on our street. And I had the most beautiful mirror the other day. I was walking down the street with my two girls. It's a residential street. It's not busy, but it doesn't have sidewalks. And I grew up with sidewalks, and I feel safe on sidewalks. So I have some fear, but I also want to go out in the neighborhood with them. My daughters are 3. They're 3-year-old twins, and one of them was pushing a little plastic shopping cart, and one of them was walking. And to me, I have our routine down. I get us over to the left side, on the pedestrian side, and one of them's pushing her cart. I make sure she's right next to the curb, and the other one's walking on the curb, and I'm holding her hand. So from my perspective, I'm close by. We're on the right side of the street. If traffic comes, we're good. But I'm still feeling fearful. And then we go down the street, and there's a group of kids playing. And I never would have predicted this. One of the kids looked at me and said, looked at me and said, "Ma'am, that's not safe." And I was stunned and surprised, and I said, "Thanks for letting me know," and just moved on. And I had a lot of thoughts and emotions in response to that. Anytime somebody comes up to me in disapproval, it's really hard for me, and I have to work a lot with it. So to have a child come to me that way, it was my mirror. I've been walking down the street trying to maintain safety, and he just mirrored right back to me my thought that we weren't safe. It is so complex and so deep, our fears. And it's not like I'm going to pressure myself. Well, you release all those fears right now, and you let your girls walk right down the middle of the street because you shouldn't have fears. No, it's much better that we own our fears. We allow ourselves to feel them, and then we understand what's happening here. We understand how we hold limits in place through our attachment to fear. And then we allow the fears to go away when they do. Okay, so I put a seatbelt on. I follow speed laws. I do what feels right to me. And it feels right to me to get over to the left side of the street. And so I trust that. But in any situation where fear and discomfort is going to come up, and it did when that child said to me, "Ma'am, that's not safe." It's like the police officer. That's a gift. It's a gift. Not so I can scramble to appear safer to get his approval or the neighbor's approval or somebody's approval. Just so I can get more and more in touch with that sense of what feels right and to be able to enact that, however it comes, and to be able to trust that above and beyond any fears we might have. So there was so much just now, but to sum it up, the fear, when it's stirred up, is for us to face, to feel, and to be willing to release on some level, so we can go deeper into hearing our voice, the one voice in differentiation that inspires each one of us. It is safe to express lovingly in every situation, because there is nothing to defend. If there's only one of us, there is nothing to defend. And in any way that idea is an affront to us, that's our opportunity again to feel the disturbance, to acknowledge it, and to release what's there to be released. I think that's it. Thanks.